Okay, so I've streamlined this one a little bit because it would otherwise kind of dissolve into watching me do the same repetitive task over and over again, and there's plenty of that in this module, don't worry. We've got dialogue leveling and then the whole sound mix to go, and that's all going to be recorded. What we're going to do in this one is we're going to get our edit set up before we start dialogue editing and before we start any real sound mix. Now I've made 3 audio tracks here. I've made sure that they are all mono. I do that by right-clicking and choosing Add Tracks. Just in case you didn't see that, right-click, Add Tracks. I want to set number of tracks on video up here to 0, and then choose however many new tracks I want. I'm going to say 3, and make sure that, well, actually no, I'll say 1 track, because you will have 2 audio tracks, and I'm going to make it mono. So I just want a 3rd mono track down here. After I'm done, I'm then going to hit Add Tracks, and it will come down here and add the new track. So we now have 3 mono tracks, and the reason we have this is that we have 1 mono track per character for dialogue. I want to get each character's dialogue on a different track. That way I can more easily edit them around. I have more space to overlap things like room tone if I need to, and it's just a better way of setting it up. I'm then going to left click on the title down here, Audio 3, and I'm going to type in trainer, spelled correctly, dialogue. And I now have my A3 track for trainer dialogue. And what I need to do is I need to go through my edit and put all of the dialogue sound or the dialogue audio on the right track. So let's take a look at a keyboard shortcut that will help us do this without losing any synchronicity, or I say synchronicity, that's the wrong term, without pushing the audio out of sync. So these first 2 shots are lines from the trainer, and I want to push them down onto track A3. Now I can click and I can drag, but there's a risk of things moving out of sync if I do that. So in order to do this more easily, I just select, and I can select multiple clips by Command or Shift clicking, or Control clicking, and then I can hold down Alt and just hit the down arrow key, and that will move my selected audio up and down through the audio tracks. This works best if we have linked selection disabled. And one thing to be aware of is if you push any audio down on top of audio already in a track, it will delete that audio when you move it out of that track again. So just watch out for that whilst you're doing this. So I'm going to select these 2, hold Alt, and on my keyboard it's the left Alt key that does this, Alt GR doesn't do this, and hit the down arrow key twice to put the trainer's dialogue on the correct audio track. So that's the first step. What we want to do is go through and put all of the dialogue on each of the correct tracks. I have 3 tracks here. I've got 1 for Wayne, 1 for the dealer, 1 for the trainer. So we keep going until we find some dialogue, and then we've got this overlapping stuff here. So let's take a look at how we handled this. So initially this is what we had, yeah, in our edit.
Hi there. I don't know you.
So I can leave both of these in if I like, because the 2 stack up and kind of fill out the voice, but what I can also do is I can make sure that they don't overlap, and I can see what I get if I solo the recording. So I can hit the solo switch here.
Hi there. I don't know you.
And Wayne's recording is fine.
Hi there.
I don't really pick up any difference if I stack the 2 up.
Hi there.
So Wayne's line there is okay. So I'm actually going to trim this back to about here. And then I want to do the same on the dealer's dialogue line.
I don't know you.
And let's see how it's helped out by...
I don't know you. I don't know you.
There's a little bit of a change there, but it's not too bad. We can boost the volume down here. So I'm then just going to trim these two out, and they'll be set up in the same way as we have done beforehand. Now we have the dealer's dialogue on the second track and Wayne's dialogue on the first track, and I just need to go through and keep making that judgment call. Do I really prefer it if the two recordings are stacked up, or do I really just want to have the individual radio mic recordings? Because this is an introduction to audio, my recommendation is just to do what we call checkerboarding, like this, and keep each line to a single recording, because it's just going to be easier to work with. Arguably, we can get a better result by combining the two recordings. That's more advanced, that's for audio people, generally speaking, so I want to keep this one simple for now. So my recommendation is to go through and set up your edit like this. All of Wayne's dialogue is on the first track, all of the dealer's dialogue is on the second track, and all of the trainer's dialogue is on the third track. Now, of particular note, we had, where is it, where she's talking about sweets here, we had our little stereo echo here, and I've just removed the top recording completely to get rid of that. Unlink, click on it, hit backspace, right? And I've left the bottom recording when she's narrating out
Gummy bears, Skittles, Chewits.
all of the sweets that she's got in her jacket. And that's essentially it. It's all we need to do. There is one place here where I've left the two recordings together.
Maybe. It'll cost you.
But there is a problematic kind of background noise in there which we might have to contend with later.
Maybe.
Maybe I can solo this and see what the difference is.
Maybe. It'll cost you.
It's a little bit muffled and a little bit distant, which is why I left the first one on in there.
Maybe. It'll cost you.
So we'll see what we do with that later on. So you need to go through and you need to make sure that all of the dialogue is in the right place. Just a quick word on some kind of sound effect stuff that you might use later on. If there's audio that you think you're going to use later on in your mix, leave it there. Don't go ahead and delete everything that isn't necessarily dialogue just now, because we can still use it later. Take, for example, this noise. We're going to make that louder and deeper. It's going to be a bit more of a boom noise as it comes out, be a bit more cartoonish, but we're going to use that later. So don't go through and think, oh, anything that isn't dialogue I have to delete. Do not do that. Leave all of this here, because when we actually do the sound design phase, we can make that decision then. For now, just put all of the dialogue in the right tracks and then continue. So, hopefully that should be easy enough to do. Once you've done that, go ahead and click on through to the next lecture once you're ready. Right, so we've had a lot of demonstration to get here, but we are finally going to do our audio mix. We're going to start on our sound design and all of that good stuff. So the first thing I've done is I've duplicated this timeline, and now I'm going to start working here. Remember, as we make new versions of our edit, I want to update my timeline so that I can roll back to something should I want to do that. So let's get started here. This being our dialogue leveling, what I want to do is I want to go through our dialogue and try and get it all to more or less the same level of volume so that it all sounds nice and consistent. The first scene is quite easy because there are only 2 lines. We will spend more time in the second scene because we do have 3 speaking parts there. But let's start by getting this down. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 2, And last time, the audio normalization with the ITU 709, ITU BS 177-1 I should say actually, was quite good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to normalize these two to -16 using that method. And let's take a look here. Maybe I need to add a little bit of a keyframe here to level it out.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that flabbiness fabulous.
Okay.
Flabbiness fabulous.
There's a little bit of an echo that's been brought out there, but I'm not too bothered by that for now. I just want to bring this little peak down a little bit. So, after having used normalization, I can of course go in and keyframe should I want to. And I will open up the inspector for this one. Now these little chevrons either side of the diamond let me jump back and forth between keyframes, remember? So I'm going to go to the middle keyframe and I'm going to drag this down by about another 1 decibel. And let's take a look at this now.
Make that flabbiness fabulous.
Perfect, everything's right there around -10. So let's listen to these two and see if we are happy.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that flabbiness fabulous.
Okay, those sound pretty good there, so I'm happy with those two. Now, for the first scene, that's it for dialogue. There's only 2 lines. So what we want to do now is go forwards until we get to this exchange here.
Hi there.
I don't know you.
Sorry, it's Wayne.
Now, we do have him rubbing his shirt when he delivers that line. There's not a huge amount we can do to fix that, so we will just have to see if we can make that blend into the background, or it might be okay as a bit of justifiable audio, but we can't fix that completely here. If you want to, and if you can give this a go and see if it works, maybe you can try and link up another delivery of this line that doesn't have the shirt rubbing in there. It is possible you can get it to sync up with his delivery in this angle.
It's Wayne.
It's a mid and it's side on, so his face isn't super legible here. If you want to try that, then go ahead. I'm going to leave this as is and we will continue. So what I want to do here is I want to get the dealer, Nessa's dialogue, into the right place. That's Wayne there, this is Nessa, so let's start on Wayne.
Hi there.
So, let's see what the normalization does to this clip. You see, this is what I was talking about back in the demonstration. Because there's so much quiet stuff going on here, it's trying to make it so that the average volume is -16 decibels, and to do that is bringing everything up because mostly this is quiet. So that approach here doesn't work. So let's try another form of normalization for this clip and see what happens. It may or it may not work. I'm going to go back to the sample peak program option, and my target level is -9. Much better. Because all sample peak does is it tries to stretch out the highest peak you have down in the edit on the timeline to the level that you have specified. It doesn't do anything with averages.
Hi there. Hi there.
And it's a little bit lower because, of course, we are getting the panning law here. So
Hi there.
I think that's fine. That's around -12, -13, and it's not a very loud vocalization, so I believe that is okay. I can see that as being acceptable, so I'm okay for this now.
Hi there.
I don't know you.
Now, Nessa, the dealer, is very quiet here, so let's bring this up and see what we think.
I don't know you.
I don't want to go absolutely crazy, like if we max out the gain, things will start to sound pretty bad. But I want to try and get it in more or less the right place.
I don't know you. I don't.
That actually helps because those two tones are reasonably similar. So we can possibly extend these a little bit. And this is more mix style, but what I might actually do is see if I can fade these two over.
Hi there.
I don't know.
And of course we have our panning law interfering, so what I might just do is make a bit more of a curve this way, and that should hide it.
Hi there.
I don't know you.
And that can help just a little bit to fade from one tone to the next, and we will loop another tone throughout this scene later on.
Hi there.
I don't know you.
And whilst we do know there's a change, it's not quite as aggressive. This being our basic introduction to audio, we're not going to get this perfect. We're going to get this into a reasonably good state that we can then hand over to an actual audio specialist. So let's take a look at the next clip.
I don't know you.
Sorry, it's Wayne.
So this I want to raise a little bit, but I want to be careful of that hand moving noise.
Know you.
Sorry, it's Wayne.
Okay, and when he says Wayne, that's a little bit loud, so let's just check this.
Sorry, it's Wayne.
Yeah, so that last bit there where he says his name, I just need to add a keyframe there to bring that back under control. So I will...
Wayne. No,
And I think it's literally just like 1 decibel down, so let's put that at 4, like that, and see what we get.
it's Wayne.
Cool. Maybe... a little bit more.
It's Wayne. It's Wayne.
Let's give it a bit of a run in.
It's Wayne.
Cool. And that keeps us around the -10, -12 mark that we want. So I will save because it is possible that we can crash. Maybe we can extend this back a little bit,
So,
and we can do the same fading trick.
You.
sorry, it's Wayne.
And that just helps the transition between the two. Obviously, again, there is a change there, but it's not as abrupt as it was. And when we build up a bigger soundscape later on, that will do a lot to help us disguise that. So,
Move along, mate.
now this is more or less the same as last time. We did add a lot of gain to this, so let's just try third. That looks a bit much to me. This one is naturally louder.
It's Wayne.
Move along, mate.
And we will need to try and fade the tone across a little bit as well. And this is why checkerboarding really helps us out, because we have the space to make these little fade-ins. I might just stretch that one out. So,
Move along, mate.
that's still a little bit quiet.
Move along, mate.
That's a bit much.
Move along, mate.
That's better. So, let's try the same basic approach again.
Move along, mate.
We might just extend that out a little bit and...
Move along, mate.
No,
And again, there is a change there, but we will try and disguise that later on. So,
it's Wayne.
Move along, mate.
that sounds a little bit loud to me, so I might just take it down to about 10. And it maybe she has to be just a little bit quieter, just to spare us the background noise. That sometimes is an unfortunate but necessary compromise.
Move along, mate.
Okay, I think that's more or less okay there.
No, I just want some.
Cool. So this is reaching about...
Just want some. No, no.
Okay, so this probably wants 3 or 4 decibels of gain. Let's split the difference there, see what we get.
Mate.
No, I just want some.
Okay, and we might need to bring it up a little bit later. What I'll do is I'll set it a little bit higher. Maybe 5 is enough. And then I might bring this bit down a little bit, which is always better than gradually increasing the volume for the rest of the cut.
No, I just want some.
Actually, that's okay.
No,
But the background tone there is a bit aggressive, so...
No, I just want some.
We do have some quite aggressive tone back there, which is a shame, but we'll work with what we have. And then we have that as well. So what I might do later on is just use the looping tone trick to make this better. I think I'm going to leave this little cut here as it is, and we might work on that during the sound design phase.
I can't help you.
And then we've got another very quiet take from Nessa.
I can't help you. I can't help you.
Cool. And we might come back and do the fading to that a little bit later on. Okay, now I've got a bit of an error here where I've trimmed the dialogue down. I've left a little bit of Wayne's vocalization in here.
No,
So I do need to
please,
trim that in, and I need to plug this gap with some room tone later on. There's nothing I can do about that just now.
please, I just need something to keep me going.
Okay, cool. So I think I'm going to use peak normalization on this one.
Please, I just need something to keep me going.
And I'm going to do the same on this one as well, because they're fairly nice, clean recordings. Peak normalization should help me.
Please, I just need something to keep me going.
Okay, that didn't work. So this one overall is quieter but has a higher peak, which is throwing off everything else. So what I need to do is raise it, and then on this little peak here where he says something, the S, I need to bring that down with a keyframe. So I'm going to drag this up until what I've got here, like this bit, kind of mirrors that.
Please, I just need something to keep me going.
So something and going needs to be brought down a little. And let's just bring that down ever so slightly.
Just need some.
Cool, so let's go and fix this. So let's go in. I'm going to stretch this down a little bit as well, so I get a bit more space. And I need to make sure to avoid issues with the keyframes. I'm going to place my keyframes underneath my playhead when it is on. Make sure I've got the right thing selected. When it is on a whole frame. So that seems to be placing one frame forwards. And then I'm going to bring this down by a decibel or so.
Just need something to keep.
And that's still a little bit loud, so and I'm going to squeeze that down until that wave kind of fits into the rest of the pattern. So let's.
Just need something to keep me going.
Cool, that's good. I like that. And then he goes in and rummages around in his bag. I'm going to leave this audio here. Who knows, I might want to use that zip noise later on, although I do have a few that I've found online. And let's keep going.
What are you after?
Okay. And we will
What are you after?
a little bit louder.
What are you after?
Okay, I don't really want to push that any louder than it currently is, so that's a bit quiet, but I think that's a compromise we have to accept.
What are you after?
And there's a bit of a rustle there that I can take out later on.
I've got gummy bears, Skittles, Chewits, Jelly Babies.
Okay, so this is more or less good where it is. However, when she says Skittles, that's a lot quieter than the rest of it.
I've got gummy bears, Skittles.
So I just need to give a little bit of a boost to Skittles there to bring it out.
Skittles.
And let's see, let's bring it up until the waveform appears to match. So about here.
Gummy bears, Skittles, Chewits.
And that now fits into the rest of the delivery much better, so we'll leave that there. Everything else here is reaching about -10, which is fine. Maybe this is reaching 10 as opposed to 12, but that is broadly okay, especially for web when things need to be a little bit louder.
Gummy bears, Skittles, Chewits, Jelly Babies.
Cool.
And I've even got some original Opal Fruits.
And that needs another boost.
And I've even got some original Opal.
A little bit more.
And I've even got some original Opal Fruits.
Still a bit quiet, but again, I don't want to push it any further.
Do you have anything raw?
Okay, that's getting close, so we'll bring it up a bit.
Do you have anything? Do you have anything raw?
Right, that's good. I'm going to see if I can extend these back a little bit so I can do another fade.
Original Opal Fruits.
Do you have anything raw?
Cool, I've got a bit of a glitch there where it's not showing me the wave, but if I click on it, it appears to refresh, so that's good. So this is taking reasonable shape, like there are a few rough edges, and there will be a few rough edges in terms of audio on this, especially in short films like this. There very often are in the end, but we'll see how close we can get to a genuinely good pass. So, next line.
Maybe. It'll cost her.
Ugh.
It'll cost her.
Okay, I like that breathing. I may or may not use the zipper noise.
Maybe. It'll cost her.
Both of these. Let's solo this. Okay, there's bad noise back there, and I can hear like random strangers in the background talking. So maybe not that one. Let's solo this track and see what we think.
Maybe. It'll cost her.
I think I'm gonna have to get rid of that first track. Let's. Wayne's breath is there. Maybe I'll trim that down.
It'll cost her.
Okay, the breath hides the noise cutting in suddenly, so I'm okay with that, and let's do some work down here. So where are we?
Maybe. It'll cost her.
Okay, that's going to need quite a lot of gain.
Maybe. Maybe. It'll cost her.
Okay, I don't really want to add that much gain. I want to kind of... that's about as close as it'll get, I think.
Maybe. It'll cost her.
That's getting to about -14, -13, which is a little bit low, but is close. We'll just have to call that close enough for now, I think. Okay, we'll fix all of this. Oh, we're going to have fun with the noise of the coat opening later on. Okay, we just need to raise this a little bit. This is kind of a side line, so it can be a little bit quieter. It doesn't have to reach 12 here, because he's not kind of fully projecting himself, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, I think the warm is okay, but because there's an S here, I think that kind of hits the mic a little bit hard, so we will take a look at this and bring this volume down, I think. There we go, and that just makes that a little bit more even.
Wayne!
Cool. And then we have the trainer calling him out. So, we said
Wayne!
-6 was going to be the maximum here.
Wayne!
So let's see if peak normalization is going to help. We lose 3 decibels between this and our meters because of the panning law, so maybe -9 will work here. Okay, nope, that hasn't worked. Oh, what am I doing? I'm counting completely backwards, sorry. In that case, we want probably about -4 or 5. There we go.
Wayne!
Okay, that's about -7 or 8, that's okay. Now that I've remembered how numbers work.
Wayne! Don't do it!
And we'll do the same thing here.
Wayne! Don't do it!
That's fine, 'cause she is calling out at the top of her voice, so that is okay. Let's just listen to this. Maybe we can fade these two.
Wayne!
I think I can probably fade that out over a while. And bring that in. And I'll fade this in as well. Let's make sure the fades are more or less the same duration.
Warm.
Wayne!
Okay, that's a good one. I don't even hear the change in tone, in the kind of background noise there.
Warm.
Wayne!
It's always nice when we have good recordings to work with.
Don't do it!
Okay, this we can have fun with. We'll see if we can find some running noise back there, but let's move on.
It isn't worth it, Wayne.
And then these two, let's try the same normalization, because that's working well for us so far.
It isn't worth it, Wayne. What about all your hard work? Not worth it, Wayne. What about all...
Okay, that one gets more that hits the peak, so I might just bring that down a little, actually.
Worth it, Wayne. What about all your hard work?
Cool. That sounds good playing back to me. So we're almost there, doing a kind of a quick dialogue pass here. And these things are kind of coming together. We do have some quite stark changes in background noise. We'll see if we can hide those. But in places they will still poke through a little bit if you know where to look. So, last line. Okay, I think that's probably gone way too loud. Or maybe it hasn't.
Far to throw it all away. You've come too far to throw it all away.
If I make that a lot louder, it really accentuates the echo, so...
You've come too far to throw it all away.
Okay, I think I'll leave it there. Like, maybe it should match this, but if I make this any louder, then the echo is very obvious, and I do want to avoid that. Cool, so that's the last line. So going through this now, the dialogue is more or less all matching up and being leveled. So that's enough for this phase right now. That's the first real step of our kind of sound design exercise. The next lecture, we're going to go through the first scene, and we are going to pay particular attention to the montage. We're going to have some fun with this when working with our kind of gathered sound effects. So, I hope this was a good one. Click on through to the next lecture once you're ready. Okay, so after all of this, we are finally onto our sound design for this project. We can have quite a lot of fun with this one, using all of the sound effects that we've found online. Now, the first thing I want to do is to give myself some space to work with. If I click on this line here, the upper border of the timeline, I can drag it up, because I only need a small video here to help me sync things up, and I want much more space down here. I'm going to drag this video track down and then drag this divide up. I want to be able to see my video track, but I want as much space as I can reasonably get down here for additional audio tracks. I'm then going to right click here, and I'm going to choose Add Tracks. I want 0 video tracks, and I want 6 new audio tracks below trainer dialogue, and I do want these to be stereo. I don't want these to be mono because they are soundscape, they are sound effects, they are not dialogue. So I want these ones to be stereo. And then I'm going to hit add tracks. Before I go any further, I'm going to name all of these so I know what each one is for. And there are quite specific naming conventions for things like TV and cinema mixing, but we're going to kind of keep it basic for now. And I'm going to name the first one VFX 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to name the last 3 Soundscape 1, 2, and 3. And we can start working on all of this. I can just scroll up and down on the scroll wheel, or I can click and drag this scroll bar over here to navigate when I have a large number of tracks. And it's not unusual for us to have a fair few different audio tracks to work with. So let's get started. And now, like I said last time, what I really want to do to begin with is to get this kind of looping room tone ready for the first part of the edit. I want it to continue until here, and the reason I only want this kind of room tone, this background noise, to continue to this point is because after this, Wayne is no longer on an exercise bike, so hearing them in the background would be a little redundant. I've got a few other soundscape recordings I can use as well to help it out, but we will get started with this background noise. So here's what I want to do. It's a little bit loud for now. Okay. Just about here there's a little click that I want to avoid. And because I'm going to have to fade it by a second or so either way, I want to trim that out by quite a bit, because the crossfades that we're going to use to loop this might bring that click back if we're not careful.
Come on, Wayne.
So let's avoid that. Let's trim this back here. I'm going to get the blade tool, that's the letter B, and I'm going to split that. And I'm going to go back now. Let's see.
Come on.
I'm also going to trim this right back and see if I can avoid this little click.
Come on, Wayne. Maintain the tempo.
Cool, because I don't want that little clicking noise there.
Tempo.
And there's another little click there that maybe I want to trim out as well.
Come on, Wayne. Maintain the tempo.
Okay, cool. I think that's there. So let's now make some looping room tone or some looping background noise with this recording. I'm going to drag it down, or I can Alt down arrow to Soundscape 1. Now remember, it was initially a mono recording, so for now it will play out of only the left headphone or speaker. So we're going to right click it, go to Clip Attributes, Audio, and I'm going to make it a stereo clip like we did before in the previous demonstration, and then hit OK. And now it plays in both speakers. Now this will only affect this individual item. This little green brick down here is the only thing that will affect. It will not go ahead and affect the rest of this audio, even though this audio is from the same source. So if I shift that down into a stereo track, or any of my stereo tracks, it will play out of the left speaker or headphone.
Come on, Wayne.
So it does still belong in a mono track. So first I want to get the volume of this right. And I think that's just a little bit loud. I'm going to take that down. And I just want it to be a kind of background noise that hangs around. I don't want it to be too distinct. And we will layer this up with some other recordings as well to add a bit more texture. So I've got my initial bit of background noise. I'm going to copy and then paste it along. And I need another one, but I'm going to finish it there. If I hold Shift and hit the right square bracket, I can automatically trim the out point of the selected clip or the current clip under the playhead to my playhead, which is quite a nice shortcut. And now I need to go ahead and put my +3 decibel fades on there. So I'm going to open up my effects library and I'm just going to drop my 3 decibel plus fades.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that.
And what we want to do is compensate for this edit like we did before. So I'm going to make a split with the blade tool. And we're going to put the crossfades on there. And this one we're going to reduce by a further 3 decibels.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that. Come on, Wayne.
Okay. Okay, there's a little click there which I want to avoid, so let's think about this. Because it does get quite loud because we brought up this dialogue, but...
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that flabbiness fabulous.
And all of this comes along a bit more. That's not as distinct as I might like, so maybe what I'll do is I'll change the volume to all of these to like -8, and then just that one to -11. And see how that sounds.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that.
Or maybe I'll bring this down even more, actually.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that flabbiness fabulous.
Cool, so that helps, that's a little bit better. We could arguably extend this and fade it in and then possibly fade it out again on the other end, but we have some little clicks in there that I don't like. I'm okay with this for now, like a proper audio specialist when they get hold of this can approach those issues better, but I could show this to the director, I could show this to a client to say this is broadly where
Come
it's
on,
headed.
Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that flabbiness fabulous.
Cool, and we've then got all of that recording going on back there. So we've now got a bit of room tone down there. Let's take a look at what we've got in terms of audio. So I'm going to go into my soundscape and I've got a few different effects that I can take a look at. I've got a air conditioning drone. I've got another exercise bike. I've got someone working a cable machine. And I've got like a boxing gym recording as well. That one's going to be brought down a lot more. I'm going to try, and I've set an IO here, I'm going to try the little drone and see what we think. And I'm going to keep the drone throughout the entire sequence because it's going to be consistent throughout this location. So I just want to trim it back to about there. And I really want to bring this down. So I'm going to maybe like -15, -18 decibels. Maybe even -24. Cool. And then we've just got a little kind of drone in the background.
Come on, Wayne, maintain the tempo. Let's make that flabbiness fabulous.
And that just helps us kind of keep everything together. Maybe even -30 on this.
Maintain the tempo. Let's make that
And I might drop the pitch by maybe 1 semitone as well.
flabbiness fabulous.
And then we've just got a little background mechanical hum, like the hum of an air conditioner or something, to help tie this location together. Just having that in there stops us from having any unnatural silences in our edit, which is quite good. Okay, so we've now got the first part set up, and we've got this down here. We can take a look at building the soundscape up a little bit later, but now we want to take a look at the fun bit. We want to take a look at the montage. So let's get my whooshes out here and let's start playing around with the montage. So, like I said, he's off the exercise bike, so that's going to end, and then we've got a lot of stylized sound work to do here to sell this kind of goofy montage effect. So let's take a look at what we've got. The first thing we've got is the big whip pan. And then we've got that thing as well. I'm going to put a whoosh in, and then I'm probably going to use the room tone from this recording going forwards throughout the rest of the sequence. And then I'm going to make this little catch noise a bit louder and a bit deeper. So let's get the whoosh in place first. Let's just take a look at what I've got. Okay, I like that for the whip pan because it's a bit longer. I think I might drop the pitch of it a little bit. So let's bring that down here onto a stereo track. Let's bring that down here. And where does this start? So it starts about there. And it's a bit loud and it's a bit high and it's also a bit fast. So what I want to be able to do is retime this. So I want to change my clip speed and I want to put it down to about 80%. I'm going to leave the pitch correction on for now. And then cool. So that's beginning to work. In the inspector, I'm going to bring the volume down. I want it to maybe be about 10 decibels loud or so. Maybe that's a little bit quieter. I'll bring that up. Cool. And then I'm going to drop the pitch by maybe 2 semitones and see how that sounds. And we will be listening to things like this a lot. That's a little bit low, so let's just... Cool. So I quite like that as a transition. And then I want this catch noise and the room tone here. So let's start taking a look at this. I am going to get the blade tool out and split this here. And split again. And get rid of that. I'm going to drag this, but I'm not going to use the shift keys. Because if I use the shift key, if I use the alt key to move that around, what it'll do is it'll take a big bite out of this here. For example, so I just want to click and drag that. And then I need to fake the stereo again. And it's a little bit loud, so we'll bring it down. And it's just an extra little bit of background noise to help plug the gap. And we'll make this repeat plenty later on. So I'm going to bring this down here to VFX 1. And you know what we have to do. Nope, I didn't do that right. Hang on. Cool. And I want to make this louder and I want to drop the pitch. So I'll make it a little bit louder. And I'll drop the pitch by 2 and see what happens. Okay, that's too much. Let's drop it by 1. And I'm going to put it back a little bit here. and sync it up a little bit better. So we have Woody Dunk, that comes out, and then we have other whooshes to help sell the effect here. And I might just make that a little bit louder again. Cool. So I will then now go ahead and do the rest of this tone. Now I need to trim it back a little bit, because if I fade it again, I'm going to get the little catch noise back. So I need to trim this back by a few seconds, and then I need to paste it in a few times until I reach the end of the scene. Cool. And then I want to add the same 3 decibel fade onto all of these edit points. So what I can do is I'll just add 1 and get it just so, and listen to it. And in fact the joins between the two aren't that bad, but I'm going to add a 3 decibel fade in just in case. And I'm going to click on that and copy it, and then oops, that's Fusion. I don't want to go into Fusion. I can select all of these edit points, and I can just then hold Control and hit V, and it will paste that transition to every selected edit point. Remember, to select edit points you need to have trim edit mode active. I can then go back to selection mode, and now I've got my looping room tone in my background. I'm just going to lean away from the mic a little bit because my shoulders are hurting. Right. And let's see just what we've got. And let's unsolo that and see what we've got. Cool, we've got a really nasty electrical electrical whine here. That's good. That's okay. Then we have a whole different room tone and background there, which maybe we can take the room tone from this. Because it's the kind of that weird whinging noise, it's that weird rasping noise that the weighted wheels on the exercise bikes make. And maybe we can use that to add a kind of unifying feeling to everything here, or maybe we could, let's trim that back, maybe we could use another recording that we've got elsewhere. So let's get started on all of this stuff. Now, for audio that I definitely want to use, I'm kind of done, with the exception of him making the strange noise there. So I'm going to select all of this, and cool, and let's get started on the basic bit of sound design for this montage. So I don't need any transitions for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use another whoosh. Now what I want to do is I'm starting with a low whoosh, and then we only whoosh until we get to this shot, and then the zoom in stops. So we only do it here. We have 4. We have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So what I want to do is I want to start with a low whoosh, and I want them to get progressively higher as we go through, and then finish on the whoosh to this edit. Okay, it's nice to have a little idea about a little bit of progression we can add into our sound design. So let's get a quick whoosh and see what we think. Okay, I like that for the last one. I'm going to put that down here, like near the last cut.